Good morning. Thank you so much for joining Fourth Breast Cancer Survivor Center's Coffee Conversation. So excited to have our dear friend Narfunda with us. We were talking just a bit about her experience as a model for Hot Pink this past year, but she does just so much for the community, especially in the East Alabama area. So we wanted to highlight that today. We didn't want anybody to not know what was going on in their area in this state when they need some services. But before we get into all the support that is in that area, Narfunda, could you tell everyone who you are and how you got here, all the things?
Greetings, everyone. My name is, as Janita has stated, Narfunda Ross. I am a 16-year breast cancer survivor. My mom, she was an 18-year breast cancer survivor, and my sister in March, she will be an 11-year breast cancer survivor. And one thing I want to share, if I get it right, it's genetics, but it's not hereditary. So that is something that we need to be mindful as well. It can be genetics, but it does not have to necessarily mean it's hereditary. We later formed a support group here in Chambers County, which is East Alabama. We're right on the Georgia line, which is Team WHIP, and WHIP stands for Working to Help Those in Pink. I got here with Forage, I think a couple of years, maybe about 4 years into the support group. We got connected. Janata reached out, and I was like, okay, I've been looking and researching and been wanting that connection. And so it was made possible one day, and we just went forth from there. We decided to do this support group. I saw a walk on in the news. And I was like, and it took 10 years now, 10 years. I was like, okay, almost 10 years, I'm sorry. And I was like, okay, well, I would love to do something like this in our area. And I reached out to the lady that helped me get my appointment in when I first found my knot. And she was like, okay, let's do it. So in like a couple of weeks, we had the opportunity to gather the community together to have our first walk. So we started out as walking to help those in pink, and we just had such an overwhelming response. We turned it into, not turned, I'm sorry, we changed it into working to help those in pink because we wanted to be more than just one time visible in the community. We wanted to make it a constant visibility, a constant support to those who were in need.
Thank you so much, Narfunda. And so, I want to ask too, like, because I mean, every area is different, but we were talking a little bit before just about all of the gaps in care and support in our state for something as serious as breast cancer. And so, I mean, we might see different things here than you see where you are just because of the resources and all of the other things that, come with a certain city. And so, can you kind of tell us what are some barriers or challenges that you see breast cancer survivors facing as they're going through their diagnosis or after their diagnosis in that area?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, I had no clue. And mind you, my mother had been diagnosed in 2 years prior to me. And the only thing I remember my sister telling me that it was malignant and she was going to have a lumpectomy. So, and I was like, what is a lumpectomy? And she was like, they just remove the lump. They don't remove the breast. And I think it was because my mother was, first of all, that's an attribute of her. She didn't want to lose anything. She didn't even want to talk about losing her hair or anything. So, and I've always heard the damages from chemo that you lose your hair, you lose weight and everything. So when I was diagnosed, I reached immediately out to my sister and she's like, first of all, what you're going to do, you're going to educate yourself. So when you go to your appointments, you'll know what they're talking about, or you'll know some of the side effects, some of the results of it. And she was my support system. I had no clue about who I could reach out to, if I would have a social worker. None of that was in front of me when I was diagnosed. So I'm leaning and depending on my sister who has medical history background. And so she had connections and, so I would tell her what was going on. She was, let me get back with you if she needed to. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's fine and dandy. It's just me. I had support, but at the time, I didn't think about anybody else until years later. You know, this is a traumatic experience. You know, I'm in the infusion room receiving my chemo, waiting on my blood work to come, and I'm looking around the room. There was no support there. They were there by themselves. A couple of young people, a couple of older people, but I had to think about, and my sister sitting there next to me. What if I didn't have her sitting here? I would be like them. You know, what is going through your mind? Are you thinking about, are you going to make it out of this treatment? Are you going to survive to the next month, to the next treatment? So then, fast forward now here in East Alabama, as of December, they have closed our hospital. So it is only for outpatient procedures. What are we to do? When you hear that diagnosis, a million things go through your mind.
And the
You
last
need
thing you want to
support.
worry about is where am I going to go for my treatment?
Right. So, you know, now where as to where we could drive maybe 10 or 15 minutes for an appointment or for a scan, we have to I'm sorry, 5 or 10 minutes. Now we have to drive 15, 25. And locally, you could easily just call a neighbor or a family member. Can you take me just down the road for my treatment or for my appointment? That no longer exists in East Alabama. So that's more worry you have to put on your shoulders. Already, the cost of treatment, the cost of medicine. I have to add transportation into it. How am I going to get there? When I get there, will I have a way back home? You know, if I'm admitted, will I have family members come see me because I'm not next door? You know, so here in the last months, it has been a time. and I
Yeah,
and I and
yeah.
I put it that way as simply as I can, you know, because worrying is something that a cancer survivor, and not just breast cancer survivor, anybody that is experiencing a health ailment should not be worried because that's stress added, and we all know what stress can do.
It doesn't make anything better, that's for sure.
No, it does not. And then those that you're accustomed to, that know your background, because you know, I've seen with the elders when they get accustomed to a doctor, that's who they want to see, or a nurse practitioner. That because they're familiar with the background, the history that led them to that point. But when you have to see somebody new, you have to start all over again, and it could be not as personal, and that is something that we need that personal relationship with our medical professionals.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of room for community involvement and just like really trying to see like what can we do to change this? What can we do to make the everyday life of these individuals better, right? And so another question I wanted to ask you, in knowing some of these things, like we can't do all the things,
Right, right.
but in knowing some of the barriers that the community is facing, specifically in East Alabama, who are diagnosed with breast cancer, I know you gave us a little bit of history about Team Whip and how it came to be. So, in light of these changes today, in light of the things that we're seeing as far as younger diagnoses and all of these other different things, what are some things that Team Whip is doing to kind of support those survivors and families in East Alabama?
Well, Team Whip was, I'm going to say we were active. And then we received this phone call or this email from Janida. And Janida's with Forge. And she says, hey, I want to talk to you about doing something, starting a support group. I was like, okay, really not thinking about it. And Janida gives me, okay, we want to have support sessions every month. We need this, we need this. And I was like, y'all don't expecting me, little Narfunda, to do. How can Narfunda and Team Whip? How can Team Whip do this? And so we hit the ground running with much prayer and much support. So what we originally were doing before we started we named it Saturday Speaks. We were being a financial contributor to those who were newly diagnosed patients, and those who were current in treatments with breast cancer. So we would give them a generous donation. We were having a few events a year for the community, and that was mostly to educate. And then we would have the walk in October to, to have fun, because we did not want to for our survivors to think everything had to be centered around cancer. So we came up with this acronym PEARLS, and that was my mother's name, Pearlie. And everything she taught us to do, she said, make sure you have a reason behind it. And so PEARL stand for being positive, educate, and empower. The A is for be an advocate. The R is to also be a resource. And the L is to make sure you have a listening ear. But while you're being a PEARL, don't forget the S, which is self-care. A lot of times we lose ourselves trying to be there for everyone, but we still have to remember our self-care. And it was geared more towards caregivers. And, our co-survivors are considered to be our caregivers. So fast forward to, was it April? No, it was March of 2024. We get the email and we want you to start the support sessions. Okay, here we go. And it was something that we had been asking, what else could we do in the community to show that we are visible, to keep us visible, and to show that we are here for the breast cancer survivors and their co-survivors, family support system. They're not alone. We began in 2 weeks a support session. Sharonda, one of our members, she said, I think we need to exercise prior to. Let's get a 30-minute walk in prior to. So we first started out, we had about 4 people to attend. They grew to 5 to 6. And we was having different people to come in and give different testimonies, or those in the community leaders come in and just give us encouraging words. Till I think the largest we had was 15. And I have just been amazed at each one. And one of our survivors, she said, where was this when I went through in 2018? Mind you, we started this organization in 2000. We established in 2015, and we really began working in 2016. And I was like, that made me think. We were visible, but we were not active. So with the support of Ford, it has been phenomenal. We're more visible. Each support session that we have at least 2 to 3 new survivors or co-survivors to attend. It also sparked us to start doing webinars. So in our webinars, we call it me and my, and whatever the topic is, that's what we end. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to do me and my family. And we're going to talk about the resources that we have here in East Alabama that is right in Chambers County, to let people know we do not have to drive more than 10 minutes to get the help that we need. And it's also virtual. It has just been an amazing journey, and I just see really what support is. And Janita, let me know if I get to my time. So we changed our theme, just a tidbit. Our theme this year is T. We're going to focus on T. And TEA, T is thriving, essentials, and attributes. And that was sparked from us having a support sessions. We were able to see what the hunger of some of the survivors needed and how we were able to feed them. So in order for us to thrive beyond a survivor, we have to have certain essentials, the medical facilities, the advocacy of it. We have to be confident in certain attributes that we have. So that is what our thing came from us being able to see and be visible in the community, the need of the support group.
And you're doing an amazing job. I don't know what you were nervous about, and I would have never known you were nervous just because of how naturally it comes to you. I think that some people see support differently as to what that means. Like some people think it's just I've got a person. Some people think it's I've got the financial things. Both all very important. But I mean, to have a community of people of different backgrounds and different experiences, I mean, just the value in a room and a space like that, to ask questions like, sure, maybe your cousin or your mom did have breast cancer, but they didn't have this type of breast cancer and their kids
Right.
weren't as young as yours. And, all of these different parts that you could kind of get from a community that's not necessarily, we're going to come together and cry for hours. And I
Exactly.
think that there's a lot of value in being able to come and be a community. Like, yeah, we might cry a little bit. Sometimes we might not cry at all. Sometimes we're just talking about our week, breast cancer being that thing we share in common, but also like, how can I lean on somebody else for some wisdom and support? Maybe they know about a resource that I don't know about and I need it. So, I mean, it's really amazing just all of the times that you'll email or send us a report like, oh my gosh, this was so amazing. And I know that you had a speaker this past weekend to come in
Yes.
and talk about ABC blood work. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about why that was important and how that supports individuals in that area?
Well, and how that came about, I'm learning when you have your support groups or organizations, it's important to network. And I want to throw that in. It's very important to network. We don't know everything. So I was invited to a church over in Georgia to come and talk about WHIP and let the community know what resources were available. And I met a young lady, Dory Johnson, who's a registered nurse, and she talked about the ABCs of blood work. And I was just thinking, we need this over here in Chambers County. I don't even know what the ABCs of the blood work is. The only thing we know is when we go into the office and we hear the doctor or the nurse practitioner say, oh, you're fine, your numbers look good, everything is okay, we may want to look at this, we're going to keep an eye on that. Okay, but no, I need that moment as to where I would need somebody to sit down and tell me what is hemoglobin, what is the H on this one, this level high, the triglycerides, what are my good cholesterol, what's my bad cholesterol, because they run through it. They have to get to the next patient. So I thought that would be a great idea. And when she came in, she started talking about it. And lo and behold, we had some that were there start pulling out their medications and began to ask questions and said, well, I'm having this type of reaction. And we had a couple of other medical professionals in there. So it went from like a coughing conversation to, okay, y'all, hold on, let's just take a moment and let's see what's going on. So we were able to gain the information that we needed regarding what our charts look like. And first of all, we need to always ask for our charts. Always ask for our charts. Just don't take what the doctors say or the nurse practitioner say. Ask for your charts. And if they don't have time to go over it with you, schedule an appointment to go over it with them. If they don't, find you somebody in the medical profession that can assist you with it, okay? And so we found out why certain meds were reacting with other meds and why they were being treated the way that they were being treated. Now, this was not going out as a disclaimer that we're telling you that your doctors are wrong or they are right, but just to kind of give them insights and better understanding of why things were taking place. But when they left, everybody was just excited and happy. It's like, oh, we just got so much knowledge today. And so, like you said, Janata, you have some sessions are educational. Some sessions, when you're listening to testimony, you cry. Some sessions are, no, I had this, but they don't do this anymore. Let me give you another resource that will better help you. Each session has been different. It's been well worth the time. We enjoy our Saturday speaks. It kind of went over a little bit, but it was not a problem because everybody was enjoying and engaging each other. And once again, it was a networking event because two of the guests that we had there, they were like, I didn't know this is what takes place. This is what I've been needing. And I was like, you're more than welcome. Just come back. Just, follow us on social media and go from there. We just, as you stated, we're not here just to give you something. And then we don't talk to you anymore. We try to do follow-ups and see how you're doing, how you're coping. That's what it's called, coffee and the coping conversations.
Well, thank you so much, Narfunda. And just to continue to echo, information is a need. And I'm so glad that Team Whip is there to give support. I'm so glad that you all are there to give the education about what does this diagnosis mean and what resources are available in the area, whether it's financial resources, whether it is community. So I'm so grateful to have this connection. It goes both ways. We're all working together to help Alabama breast cancer survivors survive a little bit better, and figuring out what that next phase of their life is. And also, I want to thank you. You always are so giving when you share your story about your mother and your sister and you all being diagnosed with breast cancer, even though it can be hereditary. It's truly amazing to see someone on the other side of what that looks like and being able to give back in something as hard as breast cancer. And so I want to thank you for carving this time today too. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And I just want to add something real quick. If and this was just resonating in my spirit this morning about what is support. We have to look at support is service. Support is love, and support is sacrifice. There are times a survivor may not want to go, but you sacrifice that moment to know you are helping someone else. And as I stated earlier, we still support our survivors, but now we have graduated and we want to help our survivors move to the next dimension, which is thriving. When you become a survivor, just don't stay there. If you have an organization out there, just don't stay in the survival mode. Let's shift to the thriving mode. We're planning trips this year. Excursion, let me say excursions. We had our first excursion to tour the Forge House last year. We really enjoyed it. We made flowers. We networked, engaged, just the beautiful scenery. And it wasn't so much focused around cancer. Something my pastor was preaching about Sunday. He said, what are you doing in the marketplace? And the only thing I could think about, we have moved from being stagnant and we are working in the marketplace. So if you have an organization, support, you have to be constant and you have to be committed. If you don't have an organization, find you one to attend. When I tell you the support is great, it is what's needed. It will help you change from survival mode to a thriving mode. Once you begin to thrive, you can help the next person graduate from just being a survivor to thriving.
Well, thank you so much, Narfunda. Like I said, it's a joy to have you and all of that in a bag of chips. Sometimes it can be really hard when you go through something traumatic as breast cancer, or, preventing breast cancer. We've seen now some individuals to find out that they have the genetic mutation for it and have to take other steps. There are so many parts of a journey that can make you feel stuck from the trauma of it all, from the difficulty, from the whys and the hows, to get to the next phase of life.
Yes.
And, choosing to want to be there is the hardest first step. And so I want to commend you for making it through these phases, but also recognizing that there might be individuals who aren't able to recognize that next step and to recognize that, hey, there's more to life than this moment. And there are people around me who can help usher me there. I don't have to do it alone. So I just want to thank you again.
Yeah. And one thing I was talking with, and in therapy, I promise you, therapy, one of the services that you all offer, take part in it. If you're a survivor, if you're not sure of where you are in your survivor journey, take part in therapy. A friend of mine who is she's a coach, And she shared with me, she said, we may not have gotten the answer we wanted, but we are the answer to someone else. And I feel that my journey now, I am the answer to the community, not just I by myself, because it's teamwork. The organization itself is the answer to a lot of those who are going to be diagnosed, those who are diagnosed, and those who have been diagnosed. We are the answer, and that's what support groups are. And this is my last thing I'm going to share. I was trying to figure out a way to relate. How can we remember what support is? So support, SUPPORT, and just the first four letters. Strategically, you provide peace. So at any time, if you just be that listening ear, you're strategically providing peace to another survivor. And that's all I want to say. I thank you all so much, Janida. Thank Forge for everything that you are doing in our community, helping us, especially over here in East Alabama. That it's just been phenomenal experience. I'm looking forward. Hopefully we can continue to work in the years to come. And if anybody's on here that if you're not able to attend a session in person, and I know we're in East Alabama, which is about 2.5 hours away, our webinars are virtual. So you're more than welcome. If you just log into our website and see our calendar, you can get the information, subscribe to it, submit that you want to attend, and you'll get the link and you can attend, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Team Whip Alabama. Our website is www.teamwhip2015.com.